First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. Yahweh to this world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai to this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Bahashim means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Qurash means holy. And that's on the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. In today's video, I wanted to go into how the Israelite man will be exalted. Okay, and this video was inspired by watching Apostle Rakah's video, and he was going into how, brothers got to believe in themselves. The same way you believe the prophecies about the destruction and the salvation, and you got to believe the scriptures about the Lord dealing with you. Okay, and how the Lord is going to exalt his men. Okay, and this is a topic that, we live in a society where, as it says, the woman was going to come piss the man. Let's first start with that. Because it was prophesied that, the Israelite man was going to be at the bottom in every single thing. So when you go into Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 22, it says, "How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man." Right? And this was really a judgment, okay, a curse that the Most High put upon his men. Okay, because when you go into the order, it's the Most High Yahweh, then Yahweh Shai, then the man, then woman, then children. Right? So this was a curse that he brought upon the men, and it was the fact that women were going to run circles around men. Okay, women were going to be in a position of authority. Okay, have all this liberty. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're living in the kingdom where this prophecy is being fulfilled. And the thing about it is, you can see how, that doesn't work out. You can see how it's wicked, and it's wicked. It's not working. These women are complaining, thinking they want to be a boss babe, but as soon as they hit 30, 35, they realize that no, so-called high-value man, no man in general wants them, doesn't want to deal with their children, all that, extra responsibility. They realize, oh, damn, maybe when I was younger, I should have just fell in order, right? So it's really a deception. But going back to the man, the Most High is going to exalt the man. The Lord is going to get everything back in order. Okay, and it starts on this side. Okay, it starts with this world collapsing, because that is when the value systems of everyone is going to shift. Right now, we are in a society that is driven by materialistic things. Okay, people have so much freedom and abundance that they're focused on the latest Pokemon card. They're focused on the next YouTube video. They're focused on the Instagram and the Facebook and the Snapchat and the partying. Right, as it says. Okay, this was going to be the reborn Roman Empire. And that was the same thing they were doing back then. They were just calling it the festivals of Bacchus, where they were, parade the streets and drinking and getting drunk and having sex and orgies. It's the same thing over again. As Yahweh Shai said, as in the days of Noah, they shall be drinking, eating, marrying, giving into marriage. It's the same thing. But as I said, the men will be exalted. And it starts with, it starts on this side. So let's go ahead and read a couple scriptures as to what's coming. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and verse 23. It says, not 22, it says, "For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy." Right, so going into the mass death that is going to be taking place. Here it is, if you find food to even survive, somebody's going to come and off you. Okay, take off your head, gun you down. That's the sword. It says, "And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down." Right, people are going to be thrown out like trash. Okay, the same way how, maybe 100 years ago they were riding, with horses on the streets, and the horses would just, shit on the streets. It's the same way it's going to be with people. And when you really go into the whole concept of flowers, having the personal flowers in your hand, it went back to, women would buy these, handheld flowers, so that when they walked on the streets, they could smell those flowers to not smell the shit of all the horses. Okay, so that's going to come back, but on a greater level. Okay, human rot is what you're going to see left and right. It says, "There shall be no man left to till the earth and to sow it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men." Right, so Men are going to be out here missing, okay, because they're going to be sent out to go fight a World War III. It says, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice. For of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks. Right, so a mass depopulation. Okay, people are going to be out here hiding, just trying to survive, being savages. Hey, when Ezra saw this, you scroll up, as he said, woe is me, woe is me. Who shall deliver me in those days? Right here. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? Because he was seeing these prophecies. And he understood that he was going to be in this day, and he would have to go through it. So it says, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils, and what shall I do when these evils shall come? So things are about to get bad. And people are focused on bullshit, man, distracted in the world. So let's keep reading. Let's jump down actually to verse 33. It says, the virgin shall mourn having no bridegrooms, the woman shall mourn having no husbands, their daughters shall mourn having no helpers. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. Right? So men are going to be pretty much cut down. Men are going to be out here slaughtered left and right, either not having enough food or dying in the wars. And that's, part of the reason why scriptures such as Isaiah chapter 4 and 1 verse 1 are going to take place. It says, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Right, so 7 women, which is a complete number. It could be 4, it could be 7, it could be 10, 20, it could be 2. Okay, a certain multitude of women are going to be looking for a man. And it's not any ordinary man. It's going to be a man of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Okay, because these are going to be the men that survive through all types of calamity. Okay, these are going to be the men that are alive. And they're going to be looking for protection. They're going to be looking for guidance, because all the other men are going to be taken out. They're going to see that this man has something that these other men don't have. Okay, and, it's a spiritual thing. You could just tell off a glance. The scriptures talk about how, when a man has wisdom, you can see it, on his forehead. Let's see if I can get that. In Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse 1, it says, who is as the wise man, and who knoweth the interpretation of the thing? A man's wisdom maketh his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed. Right, so when you got that wisdom, you move differently. You move with a certain type of weight. There's a scripture, it says that, a man shall be known by his attire and his gait. Okay, the way he walks. Ecclesiastes 19:30. A man's attire and excessive laughter. Verse 29. It says, a man may be known by his look, and one that hath understanding by his countenance when thou meetest him. A man's attire and excessive laughter and gait show what he is. Right, so the way you look, the amount of excessive laughter you have, a nigga that don't stop laughing, call that nigga goofy. It says in gait, right, which goes into the way you walk, a person's manner of walking. It shows what you are. So, going into wisdom, when you got that wisdom, you move differently. That's why Yahweh Shai said, wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Or you're going to be moving differently. And I'm actually curious to see what this word boldness goes into here in the Hebrew. Might, strength, material or physical, personal, social, or political. Right, so, the strength of his face shall be changed. Right, you got a harder look. You're more solid. Foundation. Those are all words to think about, when it comes to wisdom. But Isaiah 4 and 1, women are going to be looking for that protection. And it will be a man of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Right, that's one of the points of exaltation. Now, another scripture that talks about it, Isaiah chapter 13, which is all going into the day of the Lord. It's going to Babylon, America. It says, and I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Right, so men are going to be precious, and a man of the Lord, because of the rareness of a man with such wisdom. Right now, brothers might feel sometimes down, might feel like they're not valued because hey, the world is not focused on the scriptures. The world is focused on the world. But soon there will be a point in time where people will be looking for answers. They're going to realize that the world is dead, and they're going to be looking for answers. Or they're going to be looking for the spiritual answers, and it's going to be everything over here, over there. And that's why it says, I believe it's Isaiah 19. Isaiah 19 and verse 3, it says, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fail into the midst thereof, and I'll destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards." Right, which this Egypt here is going into America. So the spirit of America is going to fail. These people are going to lose that American patriotism of the white picket fence and the green grass and, living here till 80, 90 years old and retirement and pension. All that is going to be gone. People are going to lose hope in this place. The materialism of the world is going to fail, as I said. And they're going to be looking for the spiritual. But majority of them are going to go to the left-hand side. And they're still going to be cooked. So, hey, these things are going to happen, and that's why it says a man shall be worth more than fine gold. The Lord is about to raise up his men, okay, and it's going to happen soon. Another scripture, Isaiah chapter 32, verse 2, "The glorious future, and a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land." Right, so a man is going to be a satisfaction, a protection, right? A convenience, right? Which right now, a lot of these women look at men as inconveniences because, the men that, got their program, got the structure, don't let them do whatever they want to do. And they look at that as being slaves. They look at that as being restricted. It's not convenient to be with the righteous man of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai because, they can't just do whatever they want to do now. But soon, in a time, near, that's gonna all go out the window, or they're all just gonna be focused on survival. They're gonna do everything you want them to do. They just want you to guide, to lead, and they want to survive. So, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai right now is building up his men. He's sifting out the non-desirables, and you gotta pray to the Lord heavily that he keeps you because the Lord could pour his spirit at any moment. And soon, very very soon, you're gonna wish that you had the spirit, that you've been locked in, because it will be the only thing that matters. And the ultimate exaltation will be in the kingdom, but that starts first with Yahweh Shai. Right, as soon as Yahweh Shai comes back and he gets his exaltation, which Yahweh gets his exaltation first, having all these prophecies to pass, then Yahweh Shai gets his exaltation, then the man gets his exaltation, and then the woman gets her exaltation, right, when she's in her pure, righteous form and, the right mindset. So it's a process, and, we're at the bottom right now, and soon we will be at the top. Hopefully this was edifying. With down to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom to elect. Shalom.